Dan Shapiro, a former U.S. ambassador to Israel, said, quote, "The United States security funding to the Palestinian Authority is the glue that helped ensure that the Palestinian-Israeli security coordination continues and that has successfully thwarted terrorist attacks. The implications of the ATCA have alarmed the Israelis sufficiently enough that they went to Congress to try and find a fix," end quote. One of the United States' strongest allies is Israel, but we inadvertently harmed our very own ally by passing the ATCA, which I'll get to in a little bit. By passing this bill, we damaged the security coordination between Israel and Palestine. The Palestinian Authority and Israel have the common enemy of Hamas and have fought together side by side for years countering them. They have been effective at countering Hamas, but we can see that this is no longer the case in the current system. And that is why Stephanie and I stand resolved that the United States federal government should substantially reform its foreign policy regarding international terrorism. Now, I mentioned the ATCA. I'd like to explain what that is. It stands for Anti-Terrorism Clarification Act. The ATCA expands the personal jurisdiction of United States federal courts over entities that receive certain types of United States aid. With personal jurisdiction, United States citizens can sue these entities and receive financial compensation, end quote. The ATCA allows citizens of the United States to sue foreign entities who receive aid from the United States for terrorist-related activities. The Palestinian Authority, or the PA, is being sued underneath the ATCA for acts of a different regime, making them liable for $2 billion in lawsuits. The PA realized that in order to be sued, they need to receive the United States aid. So in order to avoid these damages, the PA refused the United States aid. But this resulted in a harm to counterterrorism and a harm to the United States interests. In the next few minutes, I'll be outlining how this happens through my facts. The first fact is that the Palestinian Authority fights Hamas. The PA fights Hamas. The State Department's latest report on counterterrorism praises the Palestinian Authority for its fight against multiple terrorist organizations, saying, quote, "The Palestinian Authority continued its counterterrorism and law enforcement efforts in the West Bank. The PA security forces constrained the efforts and ability of Hamas and other terrorist organizations to conduct attacks, including through arrests of Hamas members planning attacks against Israel," end quote. The PA may counter terrorism, but in order to do so most effectively, they need the United States aid to properly function. We can see this in Fact 2, where it says United States aid directly increases security. United States aid directly increases security. The Congressional Research Service recognized this fact when they said, quote, "Since Hamas forcibly took control of the Gaza Strip, the Office of the United States Security Coordinator has worked in coordination with to sponsor bilateral, non-lethal security assistance programs for West Bank-based PA security forces. By most accounts, the PA forces that received the United States training showed increased professionalism and helped improve law and order in West Bank cities, despite continuing challenges that stem from Palestinian national aspirations with coordination with Israel," end quote. The United States aid helps the Palestinian Authority counter terrorism and ensures the security of Israel. Yet the Palestinian Authority is being forced to refuse the United States aid because of the Anti-Terrorism Clarification Act. They would be sued for $2 billion for terrorist attacks that what many experts consider to be not only a different regime, but a completely different organization. When the PA was forced to refuse the United States aid, the security cooperation that they have between Israel was harmed. We can see this in the next fact. Coordination is no longer successful. Coordination is no longer successful. Scott R. Anderson, a previous attorney advisor at the State Department, and Harry Graver said, quote, "For the Palestinian Authority, rejecting the funds has an even more immediate consequence. An end to the training and equipping of PA security forces that it supported. This assistance has fostered substantial Israeli-Palestinian security cooperation that has proven effective at reducing the threat of terrorist attacks. As a result, it is strongly supported by various policy experts and Israeli security officials as an important contributor to security in both Israel and the West Bank. Ending it would in turn undermine the peace and stability of both," end quote. The Palestinian Authority and Israel have worked together closely to counter terrorism and fight their common enemy, Hamas. This coordination, however, is dependent on the United States aid and has proven effective at reducing the threat of terrorism. Yet the PA is forced to refuse the United States aid again because of the ATCA. This cooperation is suffering as a result. We can see this further outlined in the harm where Nahid, which is security cooperation suffering. Security cooperation suffering. Nahid Kadumi, a member of the Palestinian National Council, on April 17th of 2019, just last week, said, quote, "Coordination on security is not what it used to be. It has been significantly scaled down. I think the Palestinian Authority will gradually free itself from security coordination," end quote. This coordination between Israel and the Palestinian Authority is slowly dying due to the removal of the United States aid. Yet the United States cannot give aid back to the Palestinian Authority because of the ATCA. And that is why we as the affirmative team propose the following plan: to waive and exempt Palestine. Waive and exempt Palestine. Congress will restore the previous status of the Palestinian Authority and exempt it from the Anti-Terrorism Clarification Act, stopping potential lawsuits and restoring aid necessary to counter terrorism. This will help American interests in the current system by helping Palestine counter Hamas and the 10 other terrorist organizations in the West Bank. This aid will be monitored closely to ensure that it is used correctly. Our agency and enforcement would be Congress, the President, and any other necessary bodies. Our timeline will be immediately upon an affirmative ballot, and our funding will be paid for by normal budgetary means. Now, by passing this policy, we have one distinct advantage, and that is unified counterterrorism. Unified counterterrorism. Scott R. Anderson, again a fellow in governance studies at the Brookings Institution, and Harry Graver said, quote, "A legislative fix is the only way to avoid the ATCA's severe consequences. Hanging in the balance are not only current U.S. policies that support peace and stability in the region, but the United States' ability to play a productive role in helping to resolve the Israeli-Palestinian conflict well into the future. And the clock is ticking," end quote. By passing the affirmative policy, we will protect our ally Israel. We will counter Hamas and the 9 or 10 other terrorist organizations in the West Bank. And we will strengthen relations between Israel and Palestine. When the United States originally passed the ATCA, they did not realize that terrorism would be encouraged. They didn't realize that it would harm relations between Israel and Palestine, and they didn't realize it would hurt our own interests. By passing our policy, we fix the problems made by the ATCA. So for all these reasons, I ask that you vote for the affirmative team and help us counter terrorism, protect our allies, and strengthen their relations.